Hail to the gods and the goddesses. Hail to the oath keepers, past, present, and future, and to the gods, three, whom I invoke at the hall gathering. Forgive me, I am unable to burn offerings or pour libations in this setting. But to Thor, protector of the honorable, I pray my humble offering of a hard day's work and the promise of meat at my home tonight be sufficient for you to bless this hall. I ask you to defend the downtrodden, the laborers. Remind us all in our hearts this night the oaths that we have taken to ourselves, our families, and our communities. To Tyr, the even-handed, accept an offering of water. I invoke your presence here as the God of justice to oversee the proceedings and ensure outcomes that favor law and order. Keep the fire of freedom burning in our hearts. We pray the day the watering of the tree of liberty never comes, but we stand ready to set the table for crows should circumstances require. And third, but not least significant, to Frey, the never-hated Lord of Lords, I offer you a fresh plum. Bless the fields of spring crops, the newborns, the new fathers and mothers. May our efforts to provide good lives to our children be prosperous. May those who seek peace find it. I pray for you to bless our leaders and citizenry to work together towards a goal of peaceful prosperity. May our pleas echo through your halls and rest upon your ears, as it has been, as it is, as it shall always be. We leave these things with you and turn to our leaders for the proceedings of their agenda.
Wilhelm, thank you. Citizen comments on agenda items. We have one up here, and Mrs. Bruckner, it's up to you. I've in the past allowed you to speak, or those to speak at the agenda item. If you'd like to wait for that time, or if you want to come up now and speak, it's up to you. Okay. And then once again, remember our time when we get to that. Citizen comments on non-agenda items. That brings us to item 7, which is the public hearing. I think this is Susan, you're on. Susan, are you there?
Oh, yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. And so this is a request for the Mayor and Council to hold a public hearing regarding ordinance number 021-006, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, amending Title 17 zoning. And so my understanding is that the city clerk has handed out revised copies of the ordinance or the resolution to you. I'd like to go over those items and talk about some changes that were done since your last viewing of this draft ordinance at the February 12th council meeting.
Okay.
Do you have a copy?
Yes, we do. We're ready.
The language? Okay. I'm just going to go over the majority of things have not changed within this ordinance. You have an addition in for definitions for a marijuana establishment, and in the Chapter 1712 supplementary requirements and procedures, some minor changes in that as far as changing it from medical marijuana uses to just marijuana uses. If we go to the next page, number 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 have been deleted or proposed to be removed. That is because those items are governed by the state of Arizona, and it's not a local jurisdiction. It's not under the local jurisdiction purview. So basically, there was not a reason to have 4 through 8 in the zoning ordinance because it's not something that we actually review. That's reviewed by the state. If we go to the next page again, the majority of that is adding marijuana establishment in addition to a medical marijuana dispensary. And on the next page, you have the addition of J. So that is different than what the council reviewed at the February 12th council meeting. And J has to do with what individuals in the community could do on their private property. And it was recommended that we actually put this into our ordinance by the city attorney. That the language in J is directly from the state statute. And then you have,
Susan, would you like me? This is Bill Sims, the city attorney. Should I jump in now and explain that, or do you want to wait?
Let me get all the way through, and then you can
Okay.
jump in.
Okay.
Okay. And then K is similar to what you saw previously. L and M also. And then N is an addition since the last council meeting, and that has to do with enforcement and penalties. And that's something that Bill Sims, our city attorney, can also elaborate on, making it a civil penalty as opposed to a criminal offense. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. And also, again, the city attorney is online if you have any questions for him.
Okay. Bill, are you there?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Would you go ahead and explain to us what you're ready to?
Yes, sir. What Susan is doing, many jurisdictions across the state have had to rapidly adopt these ordinances in light of DHS and the state's actions regarding recreational marijuana. And they're about to obtain applications. And if you don't have zoning in place, then you won't be able to control recreational marijuana locations like you're controlling medical. And so there's two changes that are here. And generally what Susan has done, she's taken from the league's model form that you could use, but yours was actually much simpler because you already had authorized medical marijuana facilities in your jurisdiction. So you already had spatial separation. You already had which districts to locate them in. So all you needed to do was to companion those restrictions with the new recreational marijuana. Now, the two things that I suggested you add, J. Right now, these prohibitions in J really deal with what citizens in your community can do when they're using marijuana in their homes. For example, the number of plants, where you can do it in kitchens and bathrooms. When you put this in the state statute to enforce it under the state statute, you need to enforce it with criminal sanctions. And the last thing you want to do is lock up grandma because she had 13 plants as opposed to 12. And so what we did here is we just moved these identical restrictions into your city code. So now they can be enforced civilly, making sure you solve problems as opposed to charging large fines and sending people to jail. So that's why J is there. It's a carbon copy directly out of the state statute. And by the same token, down in N, right now you always have criminal sanctions. These allow, in effect, revocations of a permit or civil sanctions. So again, you don't have to lurch into going to the criminal process. So is it my recommendation that we included J, which is from the state statute, and we include the civil enforcement options under N as in November.
Okay. Sounds good. So at this time, I think we need to go ahead and open it up to the public for comments or questions, and of course the council if we have any. If nobody has anything, I'm going to ask the council, do you have anything that sparked your attention this weekend? Go ahead, Councilman McCoy.
I'd like to discuss the hours of operation.
Okay.
If they close at 6 o'clock and I get off at 6 o'clock, I'm going to have to go to drinking rather than doing this for my recreation. I think it.
Okay,
it's
where's
worth
the
discussing.
What page is that on for the?
Oh gosh, you would ask me that. I don't know, but the hours of operation are 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. from what I remember, and
Okay.
it just seems like if a pharmacy's open till 9 p.m., we could. I don't know why we couldn't allow this. I mean, it's recreational. It needs to be after work, not take 30 minutes.
I would agree.
If we can change that without it causing a problem, I'd like to consider it at least.
Okay. I would support that as well. That it stays open until. Would you want to say the cutoff's at 9? Bill, are you still there?
I am, Mayor. Let me ask a couple questions. That is on page 4. It's the bottom of page 4. And currently, you're just cloning this from your medical marijuana dispensary hours of 9 to 6. And so you've now added marijuana establishments. If you increase that from 9 to whatever you say, 9 to 9, I'm having a question for Susan and for John. Do we have any active marijuana dispensaries in the city today?
Yes, we do.
Oh,
Well, then the problem is they won't. Are you going to lengthen the time or shorten the time?
Lengthen.
Then you're not harming you're not harming their rights. Then I think we could lengthen it. If you were shortening it, then we'd have to have 2 different hours. One for the marijuana dispensaries that are medical that are there and they already have a right to operate from 9 to 6. But if you're expanding that to larger hours, that could apply to both, and you could do that by an amendment tonight.
All right, Vice Mayor?
Well, if the one we have in town now closes at 6, I don't have any problem with 6. If somebody wants, they're open 8 hours. There's lunch hours, so to me, 6 o'clock is fine.
Okay. How does everybody else feel down this way? Go ahead,
Mayor,
Susan.
If I can just jump in, I just want to let you know that it's 7 days, it can be 7 days a week. There's nothing that limits the days of the week for the hours of operation. All it states is that it's not earlier than 9 a.m. and not later than 6 p.m. So just for Councilman McGoy and Mayor Couch, extending it to 9 might not matter because the facility could be open 7 days a week.
Okay. Everybody else feel okay with this? Because I'm going to move on. If I'm not hearing anything, chime in.
I like Mr. McGoy's idea.
I do too.
You like to lengthen it?
Yes.
I agree.
Okay. So then when we get to our, Bill, when we get to our ordinance, can we go ahead and change it at that time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we'll just have to, when I read that ordinance, we gotta read into it to extend the hours to 9 o'clock and then vote on it that way, correct?
Yes, sir. If you're doing it for both the marijuana medical dispensaries and for the recreational marijuana establishments, you would just change 6 p.m. to 9 p.m.
Okay. Okay. Anybody from the audience? Last call. Okay, we're going to move on to public hearing item 7.2. And Tammy, that's you.
Mayor and Council, the City of Safford did receive a new application for a Series 12 restaurant liquor license application, and that is going to be for 415 the East US Highway 70, which used to be known as the Manor House, is now going to become the Matador 415, and this is a new application for that restaurant there. Did you guys have any questions on it at all?
Council, do you have any questions? Once again, the public.
Correct.
Public have any questions for that? If not, I'm going to go ahead and, nobody? I'm going to go ahead and close our public hearing and move right on into our new and old business. So 9.1 liquor license, Tammy?
So again, just the liquor license application. This is for your recommendation to the State Liquor Board if you approve or deny this application.
Okay.
I move that we approve the recommendation.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor and a second by Councilman McGoy. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 9.2, which is Tammy as well.
And this is for the minutes for the February 8th meeting. Did anybody have any questions on it?
Mayor, I make the motion, we approve the minutes.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Bring us to item 9.3, which is the parklets. This is Mr. John Casella, our city manager.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. This is a document you've seen before, although we made some alterations based on our discussions at the work session. And so one of the elements, really the main element that we made adjustments to was basically acknowledging some of council's concerns about cost sharing And so basically, each of the applicants, we will deal with individually in terms of the size, and depending on their funding source, we can negotiate a cost-sharing agreement with them. Other than that, the main provisions of the policy remain in place.
Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I think I read that we're gonna be assessed, what, 50 cents a square foot?
Mayor Couts, Vice Mayor Ortega, we are going forward now. There's a resolution later in the meeting that will pass a fee of 50 cents per square foot. We are looking to raise that fee again as part of that cost-sharing mechanism that we talked about. So what we did, rather than hold up, because there has to be a noticing period for the fee increase, so we've already re-noticed the fee of up to $5, so we have latitude. We don't have to go to 5, we can go anywhere between 50 cents and 5, and we can revisit that issue once it's been noticed for the appropriate time. We can bring it back to you as a new resolution and then discuss the fee at that time.
Thanks.
That was a yearly fee?
That's
John?
correct.
So, John, when you said cost share, could you explain that a little bit more to me? Because we've had an approximate price of $15,000 per parklet. So when you say cost share, could you explain that to me, please?
Sure, Mayor Couts, depending on the resources, so for example, we have a business support program which will support businesses up to 50%. Those funds could be used to pay for a parklet. If someone got a state grant, which we know one applicant right now has a state grant, again, depending on what they want to do with those funds, because part of putting the parklet in is putting in tables and chairs and heaters and the like. So we would sit down with them based on whatever funding sources are available, the size of the parklet, and negotiate a cost-sharing agreement with them.
So ultimately, the city is responsible for the $15K of billing the parklets, basically.
Mayor Couch, no, we would have, as we said, skin in the game. So we would require a cost share on the part of the applicant in order to put it in. So, and I believe, and Lance can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they're around 10,000. So we would sit down, again, depending on the source and depending on the business, the size of the parklet, so the cost could vary. So again, it would be something that we would sit down. So if we had a grant, that kind of changes the dynamic as opposed to whether you're more or less coming out of pocket as a business. So again, I wanted to leave that open so that we could, have some flexibility with them and getting them put into place.
Mayor, I have a question for
Go
the
ahead.
chief. Chief Orr, can you come forward, please? Chief Orr, is the police department going to have any issues or anything with the parklets if they come in?
I've spoken to a few people about, we had an issue originally. We thought the city was going to own these and they'd be public areas. And we were worried about how do we can't keep people off of a public area if if a business is trying to run business there. We've taken care of that by the leasing and renting to the business. It becomes just like a rental agreement, it becomes theirs, so we can trespass people off of them, those kind of things as far as that. Traffic-wise, from what I've seen, I don't see any issue with the traffic. They're not out in the roadway or any of that kind of situation. Our biggest concern that we've seen and identified that we think we may have, but it's something that can be dealt with, is when the parades happen. You pile in a couple thousand people or more down on Main Street. We'll probably have phone calls from the business saying, hey, they're all piled into our parklets. We're trying to have a business here and sell food, and great, they're front row seats to the parade. So we may have some trespassing issue trying to get that education through as far as those are not public. They are part of that business, but I think it's something that over time we'll get worked out. But I could see that being an issue. That's just something we thought of that may come into an issue because of the amount of people that pile into Main Street. It does take away some space for that kind of activity.
Mr. Casale, do you see any other?
Mayor Counts, Councilman Anzazola, I don't. Again, these are an extension of premises, so the stores themselves would be responsible for policing that area. I think the only time that the Safford Police Department would get involved is they would in any other instance where if someone was being unruly or if there was a parade and people decided to take up residence on that parklet, they might have to get the police involved. But I'm assuming they'll be policing that area, quotes, policing the vendor themselves. And so they're paying a fee, and the space is really an extension of premises, so it will be theirs for their use.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Councilman Hemphill?
Councilman Andazola, I would compare it to just the same type of thing of if someone bought food from a fast food place and then walked into some other business, sat down, started eating. It's up to the business to ask them to leave. If they don't and they're asking, then that's when we would get involved. So it's not something we would do automatically just because there's a parade. It would be, we're getting involved because of, that we're being asked to.
Thank you, Chief.
Councilman Hemphill?
This is for John, just to clarify, we are waiving the fee, the yearly fee for the businesses that kick in grant money or pay a portion until that fee is recouped, or until
Yeah, Mayor,
just so
Councilman,
there's
that's
no confusion
correct.
about ownership of the actual
Yes,
parklet.
so there would be a fee waiver. And I think we could amend, Tammy, can't we, the policy? So Mayor Couts, if you wanted to say, be more explicit in the cost share, if you wanted to say 50/50, we could amend, adopt as amended. So if you wanted to make that section more explicit and require a 50/50 cost share on the parklet, we could amend the current policy and adopt in that fashion.
Okay. Vice Mayor?
All, the other merchants are being kept abreast of this process as it keeps moving forward.
Mayor Counts, Vice Mayor Ortega, I don't know that we've made any particular overtures. I know we did involve the Downtown Association, so I'm assuming as part of that process that those discussions are ongoing.
Good, okay.
Councilman Seal, do you have a? No, not really. No? Go ahead.
Last time, we thought maybe 5 parklets. We didn't identify whether we were doing 5 or more than that, but certainly 5 is quite a bit down Main Street. Because not everybody's gonna be eligible for this. You've written in here about they needed to be food establishments. Is that correct?
Mayor Counts, Councilman Lopez, that is correct, but there's 2 versions. So there's a version where you are a restaurant creating the food and drink, or if you are someone who allows food to be available. So for example, there are some businesses that may host, say, a reception, and they have a buffet or food in the establishment, but they themselves haven't made it. So we wanted to make it broad enough so it involved servicing of food and beverages, but we didn't want to make it so strict that it was just if you were a restaurant making them. So there's those 2 versions of that.
And that second one, you're thinking covering, for example, the venue.
That's correct.
Because 2 of them on one block there would be plenty. And I agreed with the other councilman last time that I wouldn't like to see more than 5. And so, and then they may think that we're picking and choosing people, but that's still a safety issue if you get more than that.
Mayor Counts, Councilman Lopez, I don't know that with the parklets being in a parking space, you're not really occupying anything that intrudes into an existing thoroughfare, and that's part also of the policy. The other thing to consider is that not all the parklets would be in the same block. Some of the 5 original individuals that showed an interest weren't exactly in that same area, so they would be spread out a little bit as well. So nothing about the installation of the parklet would ever be unsafe in terms of altering the built environment.
There is some safety issues. You got bushes that are 2, almost 3 foot tall, for example, say coming out of El Coronado. You can't see little kids coming out of there, so, you know, and so I still have an issue with safety ongoing on some of these too, and I know the chief is gonna address them as they come. He also answered Mr. Hill about waiving fees. You're not just talking about the fee to have it, a permit and stuff, because you say you can waive them up to 5 years.
Mayor Counts, Councilman Lopez, yes, it directly addresses the fee for that service. So the only fee we'd be waiving would be the fee that they would pay for the parklet space. And there's also language in there, as an aside to your other point, which is lines of sight and obstruction of lines of sight would be considered when installing the parklets, so that also is part of that. And we could always take the bushes out, but they're not parklets.
the bushes you stay in. You said something about 10 days, and they had 10 days to appeal, and if staff causes something and the people don't agree with it, you're gonna bring it before us to straighten it out. Now,
Mayor, Councilman Lopez, that option is available. Hopefully it would be unnecessary.
Yeah.
Again, what we tried to do was we tried to allow for an enforcement mechanism without a fine, and that's really what that's about. I mean, if you have a parklet in front of your establishment and your ability to use it goes away, the parklet itself becomes unusable. So again, it's one of those things where it's like a last-ditch effort, where if the vendor is having an issue with administration, they would have an opportunity to go to council if they felt that was necessary.
And-
Hopefully, we would never get there.
and all I read, you didn't touch on if they got to have their own sound out there.
Mayor Councilman Lopez, we did not cover the issue of sound.
No.
What we did is we addressed specifically what could be on the parklet, and sound was not one of those things.
Sound or screens.
Right, so we had rails, like tables, chairs, there's a list of
with us trying to dictate people's hours, because those are set based on their previous experience, on when customers quit coming in. I mean, I think they would stay open longer if they had the business to support that. And so, you know, they've got a certain amount of overhead when they're open, and if it's not profitable for them to remain open, those extra hours, I don't think that's really any of our concern. I think they need to set those hours themselves, and different types of restaurants may have a different clientele that would be there not as late as others. And so I don't think that we should get involved in telling them that we expect them to stay open longer. If they were making money, they would stay open longer, I really believe. That's all I have.
I guess I didn't understand my own thoughts, because I didn't think that myself or Vice Mayor was saying that we expect them to stay open. We just said that it would be nice if they offered the extended hours, but I guarantee you, I don't like government dictating what private business should be doing. I can promise you that. So hopefully that addressed all that. So with that, let's entertain a motion on the parklets. We'll have more discussion. Go ahead, Vice Mayor.
I move that we approve the sidewalk, cafes, and outdoor seating policy that will allow for the parklets in the city of Safford.
Okay. Go ahead.
Do you need to clarify what was brought up, 50%, 80%? You need clarification on that?
Okay, go ahead. Hang on 1 second. Vice Mayor, do you want to put a 50-50 or a 75-25, or do you want to just leave it as is?
Leave as is.
Okay, he
What
wants
is
to leave it
as
as
is?
is.
How much is as is?
How much is as is?
Yeah.
It's subject to each individual
Yeah.
negotiation, and
It's
it's
negotiation by the
predicated
city manager.
on the size of the parklet and also the funding source.
Yeah.
It was just a comment on that, just to clarify again, they're gonna recoup whatever they put up front anyway. So I don't know why we need to get hung up on the split. They're gonna get it back by the fee being waived, whether they contribute 10,000 or 7,000, or, because we can't get caught up in who owns the parklet. If they paid 50% and didn't recoup their costs, they would own half of that parklet. Is that correct?
Mayor Counts, Councilman Hemphill, yeah, that's correct. I mean, again, I think the idea is to facilitate additional activity in the downtown. And of course, we have to be fair, I think, as we try to encourage that. And I think cost sharing at a 50% level, and again, in light of the fact that they will get a certain amount of a refund over a period of time, up to 5 years. So again, it depends on the individual situation. You don't want to make it overly onerous on them to go forward with it. So I think that's why I tried to leave it more open, because I feel like depending on the ability of the particular establishment, some businesses are smaller than others. Their ability to pay is more limited. Maybe this helps them out by giving them an additional amenity. So again, I think that the provisions of the policy give us some flexibility to be fair to everybody involved.
Thank you.
And you know, John, I hate to bring up a subject such as this, but you know, what you just said, I get what you said. You said we don't want to make it like a burden on the business to do this, but yet when a business wants to hook up power to the city, it's determined on a percentage that we, the council, had passed. And so, for instance, a new business that just wants to trade power or wants to trade meters from one name to another could cost anywhere up to almost $10,000. That's a pretty good burden on a company coming in that's just, all they did is buy the business and took a piece of paper and signed it out of somebody's name into their name, and we hit them with almost $10,000. And so, I mean, so we are putting a burden on a business coming in, even at the very beginning stages. So
Sure.
we do have burdens we share.
Right, Mayor Counts, we have policies that govern the way those deposits work. And the way that a deposit would work is predicated on the size of the bill that they would receive. So if you had smaller bills in a given period, Your 1 month, I think it's the highest bill within 12 months. So the deposit that is required is proportionate to the bill that the person receives, and of course, all that's set by policy.
Right, it is.
So again, I understand what you're saying, and so we're trying to create one now.
Okay.
And again, it's gotta be something that you guys are comfortable with, so it's a good discussion.
Okay. We have a motion by Councilman, or by Vice Mayor Ortega. Entertaining a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Councilman Lopez?
No, sir.
No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. So leave it as is. Brings us to item 9.4, special events. I think this is Pam.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here tonight for this is the request to review and approve the annual special events for 2021, when we waive all the fees. We have 13 special events that have submitted all of their forms, and we have 2 special events that are pending the status of their COVID-19 in submitting their applications. And we have one more added new event. So first up, we have the Gila Valley Bridal and Event Fair, which is March 6th. The sponsor is Graham County Chamber of Commerce, and the location is on the 400 block of Main Street. And this is the event, the Gila Valley Wedding and Event Fair showcase our community's small businesses which make any gathering happen. Participants are able to shop around for their wedding, DJ businesses which make up a gathering happen. Participants are able to shop for the mortuary or birthday party venue. Food trucks will be on hand to give attendees a sample of their catering abilities. This is a home-based business, gives a chance for them to get their name out and potential customers. What they're requesting from the city is to approve the event, to waive their fee, and also help from the City of Safford employees in closing and opening the streets, and then also the police to help clear vehicles off the street so that they can set up. They are also requesting electric box to help with power in front of the Safford Theater, and staff to help set up barricades and orange fencing. No alcohol will be served. The Chamber of Commerce is in charge of making sure that the food vendors have their Graham County health permits. And the estimates on these are based on 2019's, because since most of these events did not happen last year due to COVID-19, so we're kind of going on the basis of an estimated from 2019 costs. This event was a first time approved last year, so we don't really have an actual cost estimate to go on for this event, since it was canceled. They are requesting $110 worth of equipment rental so far, which does not include the public works cost of the labor and the staff hours, the closing of the streets, and those type of fees as well. Do you have any questions?
So Pam, there's 13 of these you said, correct?
Yes.
And so that's basically, if we were to approve these 13, that's that's all that the city would be funding, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. You know, I've had the opportunity to chat with some individuals about an air show. And, you know, I think that it would be really, I think it'd be a really good event. Don't have all the stuff in front of me, so I could present it to you guys as well. But I also would like to point out that over the first of the year, we had an extravagant balloon festival, if you'd call it, that was just organized just by individual, and it just lit up the sky, and it was just something that was really neat, and you know, and I think it would be a great event to host something like that, and you know, have them get up in the air and flying, and they can even do the glows that they've done once before on the Salsa Fest.
Right.
Remember when they used to do that? So, I mean, I hate to limit myself to just 13. I almost would like to see us have a budget that went on the manager's side of budgeting instead of on the council side, you know, so we can plan these. But is the council even willing to entertain an air show if it could get together in 2021? If you guys aren't even willing to do something like that, then forget it. If you guys are even interested in doing such a thing as a balloon festival, which I think has tremendous areas here for our city as well. But if you guys aren't, then you know, we'll stick with the 13. But I'd like to at least have those numbers, you know, prior to this. I understand it's the first of the year, and this is where we're at. Councilman Goy?
Don't we have a provision for something can come up and it can still be brought to us, or is this cut?
Yes. Yeah, we can always bring it to the council if that's what you decide to do. We can, when we get them, we can just bring them to you and waive the fees at that time.
Okay.
Yes.
Vice Mayor?
No, that's
it?
what I was looking for, is that, you know, we can address it later.
All right.
Because some of these, Mayor, like the Graham County Fair Parade, for instance, they did not submit their paperwork. They just sent in a letter because if the governor's orders is still
Right.
exist, they will not have it. If it lifts, they will send in the proper paperwork. So I would think that any of those would be able to come back to you
Okay.
to approve
Okay.
at that time.
Okay. Councilman Lopez?
Okay, and you're gonna go forward with these, and there's fees.
Correct.
There's permit fees and stuff like that.
Correct.
Now, when you talk forgiving fees, do you just mean those, or like the renting of the tent, the renting of the chairs?
All
or
of
what?
them. It would be the application fee, which is $20, plus all the City of Safford fees, which includes the equipment rental, the staff hours to set up, closure, police, personnel, traffic control, anything that involves City of Safford fees and staff.
So when you're asking waived fees, you're talking about that also?
Yes.
Any other questions? Okay, entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second?
Second?
Any more discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thanks, Pam. Brings us to item 5, that's
We
you
just
as well.
voted on all of them.
Yeah, we should have, huh?
Pretty lucky.
Go ahead on the mitigation plan.
Okay. That brings us to, since we had decided to bring these to you, the mitigation plans for the events as they come up when they're closer to their event due to COVID. We have a Gila Valley Bridal and Event Fair, which is on March 6th, hosted by the Graham County Chamber of Commerce. They are all just on the block of the 400 block of Main Street, which I just kind of gave a little bit of a description on that one. And I'm going to invite a representative from the Graham County Chamber of Commerce to present their mitigation plan so that they can answer the questions better and any concerns that you have at this time.
Mayor Council. I'm Brianna Morris from the Graham County Chamber of Commerce, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have about the Gila Valley Bridal and Event Fair, which has been renamed to the Weddings and Events Fair. Other than that,
This will be our second one hosting?
yes.
Okay, and the last year's turnout was
We
was
did actually
decent,
get to
right?
have it last year, right
Or-
before
Yeah.
the shutdown. And it was a wonderful turnout. Yeah, great for the vendors, the businesses, and for all the brides and event seekers.
Anybody had a chance to look over this and have any questions for Bree? I guess they don't have any questions.
All right, guys.
Sounds great, thanks.
It's
Bree.
gonna
That
be
means you
fun.
did a
We'll
good-
see you
You did a
there.
good job putting it together.
We'll see you there.
Entertain a motion for the special event mitigation plan.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 6, Pam.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, that brings us to the United Way, 5th Annual City of Safford United Way Golf Tournament, which is March 27th. And this is a fundraiser for the United Way. And I'm going to invite Alma Flores to come and present their mitigation plan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. In your packet is my mitigation plan. I am the organizer for this event, and I will be implementing and enforcing that mitigation plan that I've provided in your packet. I included in there a map of the golf course. So some of the things that the CDC recommends is that we display signs throughout the event. So we'll have signs to practice social distancing and to wear your face coverings. And then we'll be providing some mask and hand sanitizers at the registration booths. There's an hour for the participants to come and register, and so that way we don't have just a whole bunch of people there registering at the same time. So there's an hour for them to go and register. The restaurant will be locked in the front on the front door, and they'll have a side door open where people will be able to go in and order any drinks, use the restrooms, and then they'll be able to pick up their to-go meals after the tournament has been completed. CDC recommends that we provide adequate spacing for the volunteers and the participants. Because it's outdoors, the golf course is very large. We'll have plenty of room to spread out and get everyone registered out in the course. There won't be more than 1 or 2 teams at a hole, which means there will be between 4 and 8 people at a hole at a time. So I can answer any questions you have.
Arnold, have you pulled up the site map?
No.
Will you look at it real quick? When you get there.
Is it of the golf course?
Where the building is?
No, see that, the water hole? You can see your golf ball in there.
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions for Alma? Alma, thank you. Okay, you entertain a motion?
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Brings us to item 10, Ordinance 2003. I know we have somebody on this. Do you want to hear Susan first, or do you guys want to speak first so she can hear what you have?
Go ahead with Susan first.
Okay. Susan, are you there?
Yes, I'm here, Mayor.
Okay.
So this is the second reading of ordinance number 021-003, and a request for the mayor and city council to approve and adopt ordinance number 021-003, an ordinance of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, amending Title 17, Chapter R1-10, Single Family Residential District, and Chapter 17.40 AR, Agricultural Residential District, relating to Vietnamese potbelly pigs.
Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Bruckner, do you want to come up now? Would you guys, when you come up here, would you state your name and your address, and remember the time, please? I believe it's 5 minutes.
Hello, my name's Lachey Bruckner. I live at 113 South 8th Avenue. This is my husband, William. Again, we just wanted to thank everyone here at the city for all the opportunity that they've given us so far with the potbelly pigs and showing how they're pets, and just the appreciative of the city and helping us to go about this issue and learning the steps and showing and being a very forward-thinking community towards this thing, because I know it's definitely not the kind of thing that you get all the time. So I do appreciate all the time and effort that you've put in with us on this matter.
Okay.
And I just wanted to add that, like she said, it's been great working with the city on this. I believe that everybody agrees that the potbelly pigs are definitely pets, and something that we have to move forward with the city. I know there was a few what ifs, you know, what happens if there's one that escapes, and getting the registration set up. But first step in this is just kind of getting it acknowledged that these are pets and they are here in the city. And, you know, just kind of moving forward. Like she said, appreciated all the forward thinking, and you know, we hope we can get this done, and then we can work forward on any other issues that might come up. But the pigs are here in the city, and luckily there's no issues as of today, so that's great, other than the fact that we just need to recognize that they're here and they're pets. So we appreciate you guys' time, and thanks for everything.
Okay, Mr. and Mrs. Bruckner, before you guys scat, and now this is going to go for a vote, so it's up to the council to vote up or down on this. But I do want to point out that you guys did have a chance to look at this and see like what we decided in a work session, that what we thought should be added, or what was recommended to us to add to this, and you guys had a chance to look at that.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Anybody have any questions for the Bruckners? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, I entertain a motion for ordinance 21-003.
I make a motion that we approve the ordinance.
Yeah, we have a motion and a second to approve ordinance 21-003. Any discussion?
Well, I do have discussion.
Okay, go ahead.
We've worked hard on this. We've asked staff to find different ways to help this go forward without changing the code and just changing the wording for the animal. It is a pet. It's not like a pit bull tied on a chain. There was some concerns about it getting loose, and that the animal officer didn't want to chase it down. There was concerns about if it did get loose, where we were going to house it and stuff. I believe all of those reasonings are kind of weak. This is a pet. Many of the other cities and towns that was brought to our attention have adopted and made arrangements in order to recognize these as pets, and therefore that's why I'd like to move forward and approve it.
Okay. And, you know, Councilman Lopez, I understand exactly what you're saying and hear you. And one thing that I do want to point out that I'd just like for us to have read into our deals is that whenever we move into the city, or whenever we become part of the city, that there is rules to abide by. And so, you know, for anybody moving forward, definitely make sure that whatever you're wanting to come to the city for, make sure that you can do that, so that you know, it's not just one of those deals where, oh shoot, you know, I got caught or whatever. So, you know, there is rules to why we are governed as a city opposed to a county. So we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. Brings us to item 10.2, ordinance 21-05. Susan, are you still on the phone?
Yes, Mayor, I'm still here. This is a request to the mayor and council to adopt ordinance number 021-005, an ordinance of the city of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, rezoning Graham County assessors parcel number 101-17-012, located at 815 10th Street, from R2 multiple family residential to CMH conventional manufactured home.
Okay.
Mayor, I guess maybe just to back up a little bit, that Tammy, the city clerk probably needs to read in the previous
Oh,
order.
thank you.
Ordinance to the rec-
She's slacking on her job.
Big slide.
Tammy, would you please read ordinance 21-3?
Ordinance number 021-003, an ordinance of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, amending Title 17 zoning, Chapter 17.28, R1-10 Single Family Residential District, Section 17.28.020, use requirements, and Chapter 17.40 AR Agricultural Residential District, Section 17.40.020 use requirements, permitted uses of the City of Safford Municipal Code relating to Vietnamese pot-bellied pigs and customary household pets in certain zoning districts.
Thank you. All right, we're back with ordinance 21-5. So
I'll make a motion to approve.
we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Ordinance 2105. Go ahead and read it in.
Ordinance number 021-005, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, effectuating a map amendment to the zoning map of the City of Safford, Graham County, assessors parcel number 101-17-012 from R2 multiple family residential to C-MH conventional manufactured home.
Thank you. We're going to move on to 10-3, which is ordinance 2106. Susan?
Yes, request mayor and council to approve and adopt ordinance number 021-006, an ordinance of the mayor and city council of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, amending Title 17 zoning, Chapter 17.08 definitions, Section 17.08.040 definitions, Chapter 17.12 supplementary requirements and procedures, Section 17.12.240 medical marijuana uses, and Chapter 17.52 C2 Highway Commercial District, Section 17.52.020 use requirements, permitted uses relating to adult use recreational marijuana, effective February 22nd, 2021.
Thanks, Susan. Need to entertain a motion?
I just have a
Okay,
question.
go ahead.
This still doesn't address the signage, like say I think that was an issue that we had talked about, you know, how they advertise it on the windows and that type of thing, especially since a lot of times that advertising is, the advertisement is geared towards, you know, the young ones with the characters and all.
Susan?
Mayor Kaus, Mayor Kaus and Vice Mayor Vega, that particular portion will be in the resolution that is up next.
Okay, so that'll be in the resolution? Okay, I'm sure it's going to be in the resolution then. Go ahead, you want
So we
to,
do we need to,
you need to do the 9 o'clock change.
okay.
And this will be a roll call vote, so I'll be doing a roll call vote.
Mayor and council, if I may interrupt, I don't know if we need to do the 9 o'clock change in the ordinance. Perhaps the city clerk can clarify.
What
Susan,
she
I can clarify. It needs to be done in the resolution. The text of the resolution is where that change will be made.
Okay.
For the 9 o'clock.
Okay, it'll be done in the resolution. Okay, entertain a motion to approve ordinance 2106.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call. Councilman Seal.
Aye.
Councilman Lopez.
Aye.
Councilman Anazola.
Aye.
Councilman Hiphill.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Ortega.
Nay.
Councilman McGoy.
Aye.
And the mayor says yes. Okay, that's going to bring us to Resolution 11-1, Resolution 21, go ahead and read Ordinance 2106, please.
Ordinance number 021-006, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the City of Safford, Graham County, Arizona, amending the city code Title 17 zoning ordinance, Chapter 17.08 definitions, Section 17.08.040 definitions, Chapter 17.12 supplementary requirements and procedures, Section 17.12.240 medical marijuana uses, and Chapter 17.52 C2 Highway Commercial District, Section 17.52020 use requirements, permitted uses relating to adult use recreational marijuana. This ordinance is approved by a 3/4 affirmative vote, will be enacted by emergency measures for the immediate preservation of the peace, health, or safety of the city.
Okay, Brings us to item 11.1, Resolution 2102. Susan?
Request Mayor and Council to approve and adopt Resolution R21-002, a resolution amending Title 17 zoning, Chapter 17.08 definitions, Section 17.08.040 definitions, Chapter 17.12 supplementary requirements and procedures, Section 17.12.240 medical marijuana uses, and Chapter 17.52 C2 Highway Commercial District, Section 17.52.020 use requirements, permitted uses relating to adult use recreational marijuana for adoption by reference as amended effective February 22nd, 2021 to be a public record.
Okay. Councilman McGoy, this would be your opportunity to change that to 9.
Move to approve ordinance number 021-006 with the change to the operating hours to be extended to 9 p.m.
Are you talking on Resolution 2102?
I'm sorry, 21, you're correct.
Yeah, we're adopting amending the resolution.
Okay. So moved.
Okay. So so we have on the floor right now, Resolution 2102 is to change the operating hours from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. We have a motion made.
Second.
We have a second. We have any discussion on this? All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Brings us to item 11.2, Resolution 2101. John, this is yours. This is the parklets.
Yes, Mayor and Council, this is a request to adopt Resolution R21-001, adopting a sidewalk, cafe, and outdoor seating policy permit fee of 50 cents per square foot per parklet.
Okay, entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2101.
So moved.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Resolution 2104. Manager John.
Mayor and Council, this is a request for the council to approve and adopt resolution number R21-004 in favor of changes being proposed by HB 2523, allowing community colleges the option to offer 4-year degrees as determined by the governing board. So basically, this is a resolution of support.
And I do believe that it passed the House today, and now it is sitting pretty substantial numbers.
Yeah,
and
I think at 57-3 it passed.
yeah, and so it's moving on to the Senate. So I think we're a little further than we've ever been.
Yep.
And so it's, you know, every ounce of me wants to support it, but every ounce of me is also saying, don't raise our taxes. So, anyway, need a motion to approve.
So moved.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Bring us to item 12.1, the budget. Alma?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight I will be discussing with you the revenue projections for fiscal year 2022. So in the first slide, I'm not going to focus too much on the actual numbers. I want to first talk about just some different concepts and some changes that we can look forward to in this next budget year as far as our revenues. So this slide shows you the general fund revenues by category. If you'll notice, the last two columns here are in green. This is the city sales tax collected. It includes, this is the street transfer, and this is the one that goes into the general fund. So these two together, the $7.8 million is what we collect total in city sales tax. Normally, I would show this separately, but to capture the general fund true revenue sources, we've added this now to the general fund. So this $1.4 million is the half-cent sales tax that we transfer, and that's an internal transfer in the accounting department, and we transfer that to the streets fund. Another revenue source, the auto lieu, the $688,000, that again is a source of revenue that gets transferred into the streets department, and 100% of that revenue source is given to the streets department. So the next two largest revenue sources are the state shared sales tax and the state shared income tax. So these two categories right here. I just want to talk a little bit first about the state shared sales tax. So all of the state shared revenues are distributed based on population. So the 2020 census numbers have not been compiled and completed yet. And so normally we would get some estimates based on these new calculations, but because the census was extended out for the time that residents were able to go and process their census data, was extended out to, I believe, October 15th of last year, and so that then extended the time that they need to process the 2020 census data. And so the state is still trying to process all of that. At this time, it is really unknown on how the state will handle this once they receive those new population numbers. Today I was in a phone meeting with the League of Cities and Towns, and their recommendation will be that the state will distribute the state shared revenues based on the current population numbers. And then once they're hoping to have those numbers finalized in September, so late September and October, we would then see a true up of how the distribution should work.
So the taxes we collected before isn't going to go with our census numbers from before either. It's going to go under the new census numbers.
So Mayor Councilman Lopez, beginning July 1, those revenues collected will need to be distributed based on the 2020 census population. And so that's the data that they don't have populated yet. So we don't know what impact that's going to have on us yet. But the state does have an option because of the way it is written in the law, and so I want to be very transparent about this. The state has the option, because the numbers are not available, to not distribute the funds until the funding is available. And then we would see a large distribution September, October, when those numbers are finalized. So right now, the league is in discussions with the state so that we can have distribution based on the current population numbers. And so we're still working through that. As we get closer in the next couple of months, hopefully the league will have more data for us so that we can then apply that to our budget. So that could impact us. We don't really know exactly how that will impact us at this time. The state shared income tax. So the governor was proposing an incremental decrease to state income taxes, resulting in a $600 million permanent income tax cut. I just found out today that so I included that in my CCF, and so I wanted to touch on that a little bit. I just found out today that has not moved forward, so it doesn't look like that proposal will go through. But the effect that would have had on us, it was about a $50,000 decrease in income tax revenue. For year one, it would have been phased in. Year two, $100,000, and then year three, $150,000. But today, it's looking like that will not pass, and so we should not see any changes to our shared income tax.
So you mean it didn't clear committee?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep. So the league had really been lobbying for the cities and towns for that bill to go away. So that was good news today. So wanted to touch on that. And again, I just want to remind you, so here on this slide, I do have the $1.4 million, which is the half-cent sales tax, and the $688,000, which would be transferred into the streets funds. But overall, right now, we're looking at general fund revenues of about $13 million. So this slide is a comparison from the previous year, the current year we're in budget, and then next fiscal year's budget, 2022. So we can see the city sales tax is estimated to be $7.78 million in fiscal year 2022. That's an increase of 23%, or $1.4 million and that's a comparison from the budget year 2021 to the 2022 budget. So the increase year over year is primarily based on actual sales tax collected. So the current year's estimated sales tax is approximately $7.5 million. So that's where the increase, you're going to see that increase. Last year, if you recall, during the budget, COVID was in the beginning stages. Staff did not know how COVID was going to affect our revenues. Actually had a positive effect on our city sales tax because people were being forced to stay home and shop local. And so we saw an increase in our city sales tax. And so again, this number I believe to be still very conservative. This is the combination of these two numbers here, the $7.7 million. And I just want to point out that in fiscal year 2020, we collected approximately $7.7 million in city sales tax. So still a conservative number. We don't know what's going to happen with COVID yet. Are people going to get their vaccines and begin to travel out? We really don't know. So it is still a very conservative number. The reason we see the increase is primarily just because last year we budgeted much lower than we would normally have done. Any questions on the city sales tax? The city sales tax is our largest revenue source in the general fund. We monitor it. Staff is constantly monitoring it. We have new monthly reports that will be given out so that council can also see what we're seeing. And so far, city sales tax has had a very positive increase. So
I'm still not clear on city sales streets transfer.
So these two columns right here, so 1.1 or 1.4 million and 6.3 million, those two added together is our total city sales tax collected. So we collect almost $7.8 million of city sales tax. That's the 2.5% of that's what our current tax rate is. But 20% of that, which is your half-cent sales tax, gets transferred into the streets department. So in my slide now, I'm just showing you that this really is all general fund revenues. We collect it in the general fund, and then it's distributed out and transferred into the streets department, into the streets fund.
And that's the monies we can only use for street projects.
Correct.
Not streets projects, not the street department, street projects.
Mayor Councilman Lopez, the revenue source is provided to the main expenses for the debt service. We have the debt service in the HERF Streets Fund, and that's what this primarily funds, is that debt service. Anything that's remaining can be utilized for projects, yes.
I thought it was dedicated to projects, but we'll...
Yeah, and the and that's why there's a sunset currently on that half-cent sales tax, because it's meant to end at the time that the debt service would then end. And the debt service, when we received that that bond, it was utilized for street projects specifically.
That sunset got extended out.
And that was
pretty good. So.
Yes,
yeah.
Mayor Councilman Lopez, that is correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so looking at the city sales tax and the shared income tax, again, these are our state shared revenues that the League of Cities and Towns will provide us with estimates for those. Currently, what I'm utilizing is based on history and our actuals that we've received in the last 3 years. And so we've seen an incremental increase in those revenue sources. And so that's what I'm reflecting here. But I hope to have something from the League in the next month or two of some better set numbers. Again, once they provide us with numbers, still won't have the 2020 census distribution available, so that could still affect us. So I want that to be very clear, that that could still have an effect at a later date. All of the other general fund revenues are pretty straight lined. Again, the auto lieu is a transfer to the streets department. Other revenue, that does include, and I don't want to say this wrong. So the other revenue includes the pool, our recreation. It includes our interest earned. Those two revenue sources are decreasing slightly or trending that way, and so that's one of the reasons why our other revenue is slightly down. But majority of this is our leases and rental of properties and the airport. So that's all included in other. Does anyone have any questions on this slide? Our revenue is increasing from 11 million to 13 million. Again, that increase is majority within the city sales tax and just from us budgeting lower in the previous year.
On the auto Lou, that 3250 is supposed to be going away on our registrations next year. That, we don't get any of that anyway, do we? That all goes to highway?
Mayor Councilman Lopez, I would have to verify. I believe a portion of that does. It is the vehicle licensing taxing that we do receive within the auto Lou, and so.
Because that 3250, I think it is, per year is supposed to be going away next year, I think. So that might affect us coming up.
Mayor Councilman Lopez, I can double check that and see what, and again, the league does provide us with some estimates for these based on the state distribution numbers, so.
Mayor Councilman Lopez, some of that number is calculated in the local county where the registrations occur. So it's a combination, as usual, it's a complicated formula, but some of it is county-based. So it's like vehicle license tax is what it is.
Everything almost says it's complicated. So.
That's why we let her say it.
I was going to say I lost most of my audience. It looked like you just had to say budget. Any other questions on this slide? Okay. So overall, we're seeing about a 14% increase in the general fund revenues. I do want to point out the property tax. Property tax is about 2% of our revenue. But I do want to remind council that the property tax rate will remain the same as the previous year at 0.5135 per $100 of assessed value. And this is in following with the previous year's budget recommendations. The property tax will be utilized to pay the debt service for the police station and any additional property tax collected above the debt service is set aside to reduce the future financing for a fire station. Although the rate will not increase, revenues could possibly increase and would require us, per state statute 42-17107, would require us to post this notice of tax increase. So our rate is remaining the same, but if our revenues increase a specific amount, then we would have to be, we are required to post this. So I wanted to just remind you of that. In the HERF department, HERF is estimated to be $757,000. Again, there is a slight decrease, and this number is based on the previous year's activity. We've seen a slight decrease in the actual revenues that we've received. The HERF revenue is a state shared revenue, and so we will be receiving some more information from the league once it's available. The city sales tax does receive the transfer from the general fund. So they receive the half-cent sales tax, which is approximately 20% of our city sales tax, and then 100% of your auto Lou is transferred into the streets. So the total HERF street funds for fiscal year 2022 budget is $2.8 million. It's approximately a 14% increase, and majority of that is from the city sales tax increase. Are there any questions on the HERF for streets revenue? So the enterprise funds, they have minimal changes year over year. Each enterprise fund is analyzed based on its previous year's usage to determine an appropriate estimate for fiscal year 2022. The gas fund is the fund that's probably experiencing the most significant decrease. We see the decrease in the usage in the current year and in the previous year. It's the gas can fluctuate based on the weather. So if we have a warmer winter, then the gas will tend to be slightly lower. So we have seen a little bit of decrease, and so that's the reason for the gas. Same thing with the water. We've seen a slight increase in the water. Majority, looking at detail, majority of that is seen within the residential customers. And so there's about a 5% increase in the water revenues. And staff is not recommending any changes to the rates at this time.
You attribute, like the gas, for example, that most of its problem is seasonal. You have no percentages on how much is lost.
Mayor Counts, Councilman Lopez, I can get with Raymond and we can try and get into some more detail
Okay.
of that and provide a presentation for that.
All right. He's got a presentation coming, so
Our gas costs right now is figured at less than 1%. That's how much gas we have lost. Compared to what we purchase and what we sell,
Okay.
it's less than 1%. I attribute that to checking regulator pressures, stuff like that, purging lines.
1%. That would be good if that's what it is, Randy.
That's what the numbers
Okay.
So the total enterprise revenues is estimated to be about $24.4 million, which is an increase of approximately 2% from fiscal year 2021 budget. Do you have any questions on the enterprise funds? Actually, that was my last slide, so do you have any questions on any of the revenue sources we've reviewed today?
Anybody have any questions? Okay, Alma, thank you.
Right, thank you.
13-1 P card report. Councilman Lopez.
I did have some, and I checked them out, because they were just missed wording and stuff. They knew more about it than what I was asking, so I felt good when it got cleared up. We did have Public Works, Chrysler Pest Control. Twice in a row, they charged the $445. One time they called it City Building Pest Control. The next line, it's Pest Control for City Buildings. Can't tell which it is. And did we pay it twice?
Councilman Lopez, that's our monthly fee. Obviously, there was 2 covered in this month. Probably wasn't one last month. That $445 is our monthly rate. So it covers all the city buildings. They go around and spray each building, and it's the monthly spray they do.
So these charges aren't for the one time, they're for...
Well, it's for 2 different months, and if I could pull it
2
up, I
different
could probably
months,
tell you
okay.
which months, and I can get that to you if you want to know. But that is a monthly fee. It's not that we charge double. It was probably 2 months in one credit card billing.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else on the P card? Councilman Lopez?
Well, there was the chicken wire on the last to protect new trees at the cemetery, which this is just part of it. There was like 15 trees planted right under a power line. So in the future, I guess we're gonna have maintenance on them now too, added to that. So just an added cost. That's all, I believe, Mayor.
Okay, expenses over 5,000. Is there anything on that one? How about revenues over 5,000? Okay, want to bring us to item 14, announcement of current events. Anybody have anything on the current events? Vice Mayor, go
I
ahead.
have there'll be a Siegel meeting Friday at 10 a.m.
Okay.
Mayor, did you want to talk about the testifying tomorrow?
Go ahead.
We have been, Senator Gowan has made us aware of the potential for some funding at the state level. Lance and I did a tour with the senator on Friday to show him 14th and 20th Street. They have put money in a budget, in a bill, not a budget, in a bill that is in excess of $1 million that they're looking to get to Safford to cover some of the cost of 20th Avenue. So tomorrow morning, and again, the mayor and Lance and I will likely sit down. There's a Senate Appropriations Committee meeting at 9 o'clock. On their docket is the bill that would provide us with those appropriations. So at this point, there's no guarantee, but we're talking over $1 million to be put toward 20th Avenue. Now, if you recall, we had discussed how the budget had risen on that as it was, plus there was discussions about lighting of the intersections. All of that was conveyed to the senator, and so the appropriations that's being allotted would help us to cover that budget gap and some of the work that we need to do on the lighting. So we'll be testifying tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock or thereabouts, whenever they call us up. So I just wanted to make you all aware of that, because we did talk about the overage in the budget, so there's potentially an offset.
And so I met with him Thursday evening as well at Kip's house, and it was interesting. And your take on you and Lance taking him to the site, what did he get a little bit better feel than what was announced over the phone?
Mayor, council, members of council, absolutely. And I applaud him for coming down and doing that. I mean, he really wanted to see what the situation was on the ground, so Lance being there, he got to see the traffic flowing through the intersection, so he got to see how much traffic was actually going. He got to take a look at the actual construction of the facility, so I think it was worthwhile that he came down, and we had a good discussion.
Doesn't Senator Gowan chair that committee?
Yes, he does.
Well, that's some help too.
Yes, it is. And just one other point, and this is kind of an aside, but it may be relevant for the upcoming budget discussion. Based on our earlier discussions regarding our unfunded police liability issue, I brought that issue up with him as well. Figured I might as well take the opportunity. And basically, how do I put this? It was one of those don't hold your breath kind of situations. So I know we had discussed the potential of trying to see if there was any kind of relief that the state might be providing to localities. Based on my conversation with him, that's not anything that he's seeing or anything that they're going to entertain, especially given the magnitude of all the communities out there that are in that situation. So again, I thought I would just pass that along to you.
Okay. And I also would like to just kind of kick out that maybe we should be really thinking of a campaign, a radio campaign over the, we're getting ready, Freeport-McMoran's getting ready to hand out pretty good bonus checks. And part of the reason why our sales tax revenue is up is because, you know, everybody stayed home and shopped local, as Alma pointed out. And it would be a great opportunity for us to hit it heavy as we can and to really emphasize that shop locals helps the economy. And so we as a community need to really adhere to that, and the chamber as well. Brad, if you can talk with them and let them know that let's hit that, because I think the checks hit this Thursday, if I'm not mistaken, and they're pretty big. So hopefully there'll be a lot of vehicles being bought. Vance?
Mayor, one other event. This weekend is our first free dump weekend, this Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So as your constituents ask, it's free dump those 3 days this weekend.
Okay.
And we gonna have another sign on 20th, like we do on 14th, that they can read the progress of what's going on there? Our tax dollars at work?
That'll be required with ADOT's project. They'll have a full sign up there.
Okay.
We're not gonna put one up ourselves, but it'll come with the project.
Councilman Seal thought the one on 14th was a little small.
He wants bigger?
Well, he said if I could read it, then okay, but anyway.
I thought you were gonna hit me with how much I paid for them.
Yeah, I can imagine. Well, when we used to have Orange Help, we had them do them in-house, but.
All right, we have anything else under announcement of current events? Bring us to item 15, report on operational items. Raymond?
Good evening, Mayor, council members. I'm bringing you tonight the Safford Gas System Upright, something that me, myself, and my department's been doing for the last year and a half. The reason for the upright, Arizona Corporation Commission audited the City of Safford gas system. They found that with the new PHMSA mega rule going into effect July 1st, 2020, we lacked sufficient documentation to demonstrate the City of Safford Gas Division had an established maximum allowable operating pressure, which is the highest pressure we can operate at. The reason for that is that our previous MAOP exception letter that was given to us by the Arizona Corporation Commission was no longer valid. They didn't accept it anymore due to what they read and the new mega rules. We had no pressure records from 1965 to 1970 on the system. We also had no records of any gas lines installed prior to 1975. Our high-pressure mains, which were installed at least 30 years ago, had no pressure test records. What is the PHMSA mega rule? In light of recent events involving pipelines and adoption of the mega rule have caused PHMSA and ACC to take a much tighter stance on enforcement. Operators will have to test all pipelines for MAOP to ensure their safety, including lines that had been exempted from previous safety rulings, which is one of us. Companies will have 14 years to comply with the new measure, but 50% of the work will have to be done within the first 7 years. All companies must provide clear, traceable records and more comprehensive reporting. Pipeline operators will have to know and report on exactly what they have in the ground. There are new requirements for how much sampling and testing must be done to call something verified. If operators do not have the records to support this, what's in the ground, they must test and inspect the lines and report their findings to the ACC and to PHMSA. How other gas operators are handling the new mega rule? Well, some of them are doing the increased monitoring plan, which there's a lot of them that are doing that, and they have to test for leaks in those sections every 6 months until they have them replaced or uprated. Replacing all lines that lack proper documentation. We didn't take this route because unfortunately we have 80,203 feet of main and 2,271 services. They're all in pretty decent condition. It's just that they were installed prior to 1975. Uprating pipelines, several operators are still in the process of drafting their procedures to do that. This is the same path that the city of Safford done and completed. Selling their gas system to a larger operator. I know of 2 so far that have sold or try to sell at least. Loss of revenue for the city and internal departments, and it's actually higher gas rates for customers. The Safford Gas Upright. The Arizona Corporation Commission audited the city of Safford in March of 2020. The gas division wrote the procedures and submitted them to the ACC, who approved them on May 13, 2020. The initial leak survey began on March 16, 2020, and the complete uprate was done on November 17, 2020. The 187-page uprate document was submitted to the ACC for review on December 21st, 2020, and on February 8th, 2021, the ACC completed the review of the uprate and found it acceptable. The benefits of the uprate, 100% of our gas system was leak surveyed 3 times. And actually, the year prior, we did 1 too, so that 1% gas loss, we're pretty sure of that. 1 survey was done by the City of Safford employees. The other 2 were done by Gulf Coast Survey. Leaks found were very small and easily repaired. Safford is one of the only gas systems that has completed an uprate of this complexity. The uprate brings us in full compliance with PHMSA mega rule and the ACC. The new obtained MAOP will last the lifetime of the system. And so our high pressure mains have a MAOP of 100 PSI, and our distribution system has an MAOP of 30 PSI. Is there any questions or comments?
A couple of months ago, we okayed a third party to help you gather some data. Is this part of it?
No, sir. That was the distribution integrity management plan that is currently still being performed. That is to find any flaws or any areas in our system that should be monitored or replaced. So that's currently going on, and they're looking through all of our documentation and looking through our pipeline records, and they're gonna rate everything and on how we should replace it and when we should replace it. So that's what's going on currently. That didn't have anything to do with this.
And that, but this one I'm talking about, that involves also some more training for your staff.
The distribution integrity management plan, no, it doesn't. That is just say like a plan for our system. So our system can be better. That's an actual plan on what issues we have and where, like corrosion. Let's say if we have an area that's high in corrosion, it'll identify that area by the leaks we've had previously and the issues we've had with those and when the line was installed. And it'll actually score that line. Let's say it has a score of 50, and then let's say another line on the opposite side of town has been a little worse and has, let's say, a score of 30. The score of 30 will actually need to be replaced prior to the one of 50. So it's just like a kind of a replacement, keeping the integrity of the line the best, the system better. So we look at everything we have in our system and see where we have flaws and what we need to fix. So that's what the distribution integrity management plan, it's just going to be a record saying, you know what, you need to fix this, these are your issues, this is where you need to look at, and this is what you need to repair.
That involves some of what you still have on cathodic protection?
Yeah, that involves everything in the system, cathodic protection, the components we use, even our employee training. Every time we have a leak or something, we have to see exactly what the reason was, if it was corrosion or if it was even employee error or the products we use. And all that goes into that distribution integrity management plan and helps us identify where our flaws are or where we're lacking, so we can work on those areas and fix them, even if it's employees or certain parts.
I understand you stepped up on this one. That was good to hear.
The uprate puts us ahead of pretty much any gas system I know. We're in full compliance more than a lot of other people haven't even started, really.
And the date 70 and stuff like that, because too, now I'm hoping you stay in compliance, because you do in your department have a job title that deals with compliance.
Yes, sir, that's all.
So I'm hoping that gets stepped up and gets taken care of too.
Yes.
All right.
As of right now, we're 100% in compliance, and we have no shortfalls right now. We're waiting for our next audit, and it'll be a good one.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor, Ramon, I'd like to say thank you to you and your crew. You guys are doing an excellent job, so keep up the good work, okay?
Thank you, sir.
Any others? No. Vice Mayor?
I'd like to see who's the first one out of here, so let's adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.